New day has come. How many people feel like that new year rolls around? New day is here. And yet, how many of our intentions and resolutions are the same as they were last year? So there's this fine line that we're always walking in Unity teachings, where the aspiration of where we feel that we are called to has also got to sort of meet and be present to where we actually are. And so the aspirations are wonderful, the dream, the idea of where we're going, but we also need to be fully present and compassionate with where we actually are. Because sometimes the dreams that are pulling us forward take time to actually unfold. And sometimes the dreams that are pulling us forward need time to evolve and to change, to become something else. When I first recognized that my dream of becoming an Obie and Tony Award-winning actor was changing, it was a challenging period in my life. It's a very challenging period in my life, and it was about first letting go of something, not knowing that this was what was coming, not knowing that this was where I would be standing, not having that understanding yet, but knowing that something else was calling me forward, something more and larger and bigger than what it was that I had understood my life to be. And so we did the first part of that last week where we did the burning bowl, where we said, what do we not want to take with us into the next year? What do we want to release into the next year? What is it that we're saying, okay, I'm going to let this change. I'm going to let this transform. I'm going to let this become something else. Because even though my dream of being an Obie and Tony Award-winning actress is not been fulfilled, the very heart of that dream, that I would stand in a place, in a space within myself and share myself in order to transform lives, that piece is still true. Can you feel that? So beneath the surface of what I thought that was going to look like, there was a whole other level that I was being invited to step into. And so I had to first step away from something so that I could more greatly reveal who I actually am. I often describe to people that I feel now that what I was only doing in the rehearsal room and on stage is something that I now get to do in every moment of my life. That I blew it open in a different way so that I was invited to show up in a larger way. So that's the invitation today. What is the larger you that is being invited to show up? What is the larger you that is seeking to express itself, and not so much on the surface idea, because if we get too attached to how it actually shows up, I'm going to win an Obie, I'm going to win a Tony, then all we're setting ourselves up for is heartbreak and disappointment. But if we're focused on, I want to touch people and transform lives, I want to make a difference to people, I want to show up as my most authentic self, and in that be a force for change and evolution and growth in myself and in the world, then all of a sudden it opens up where it is that I'm invited to be. So that's my invitation to you today. How much bigger can you make what it is that you are going to stand in this day? So that, yes, some of that might look like concrete tasks that you are going to accomplish, but at the heart of it, what is the calling that is asking to be ignited within you? So we have two steps to the process that we're going to step into today. So the first step is going to be what I call the naming. And you're all going to get, and I'm going to ask the prayer chaplains now to rise, and they're going to start distributing white. No, you know what? Wait until I finish. What was I thinking? Yeah, let's not have my own competition going on here, right? Okay, so everyone's going to get a white stone. They're actually imported from Jerusalem. It's the same white stone that it makes up the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall. It is the stone itself is the process of the naming piece of it. Because naming something is very important. If back then I named what I wanted an Obie and a Tony, and then it was very hard for me to unattach myself from what that was, when what I really was naming was my space, my place of connection with other people in the world. Communication, connection. That was really what I was naming, but I was getting a little lost in my story. So I want to just quickly, remember the story of Rumpelstiltskin? Remember this fairy tale? I happen to personally love fairy tales. I love the metaphors in them. It's what we do with all of our wisdom teachings. We do it to Hamilton. We do it with the Hebrew scriptures. We do it with the Christian scriptures. We take the stories that are there and we apply them to our life. So in the story of Rumpelstiltskin, we have this young maiden whose father, there's lots of versions of it, but we're going to go with this one, where her father sort of says, I want you to go and marry the prince. And there's this whole competition as to who's going to get to marry the prince. And the prince's parents have set up these tasks that the princess has to do, and there's 3 of them. They vary depending on the story, but it's usually, spin flax into gold and turn rice into gold. Everything's about turning everything into gold, right? And if you can't accomplish this, we're going to kill you. Like, those are her options, right? So she's locked away in this dungeon, and she's thinking to herself, well, what am I supposed to do here? And Rumpelstiltskin shows up, and of course she doesn't know his name yet, and he says, I will help you accomplish these 3 tasks. In exchange for that, once you are the queen and once you have your first child, you give the child to me. Now remember, she's in between a rock and a hard place here, right? She's either going to die or she can give up her firstborn. So she says, okay, I will give up my firstborn. She's also thinking that, she's got some time to try to figure this out. She says, but there's got to be, what can I do so I don't have to give up my firstborn? And he says, well, if you can guess my name at the end of the year, I'll give you 3 tries. And if you can guess my name, you will be able to keep your firstborn. So she gets, of course, it all works. She gives birth to a beautiful baby. She does not obviously want to give the baby up, right? And she knows that Rumpelstiltskin is coming. And he comes, and she tries one name, and he laughs and says, that's not it. And she tries a second name, and he laughs, and he says, that's not it. And she says, all right, I need some time before I give you my 3rd and final answer. And she goes wandering into the forest. Right? She goes wandering into the forest, and while she's in the forest, now this is a metaphor, remember? So when she is wandering in the forest, she's wandering within her inner space. She is getting quiet. She is stopping the surface mind. So she's no longer making guesses like Scott or Tom, right? She is opening herself up to that divine wisdom. And as she's walking through the woods, who does she happen to hear dancing a little dance in the middle of the forest but Rumpelstiltskin, singing a little song about how the princess is never going to guess his name is Rumpelstiltskin. So she goes back and she says to him, your name is Rumpelstiltskin. And he doesn't get the child. I happen to love this story because for me it's about when we let the surface mind go and we actually quiet, and we actually listen deeply, there is an inner wisdom that will come up with something as weird as the name Rumpelstiltskin. It will allow us to tap into something that is larger than our small understanding of what's possible, of who we are. And naming is very important because in the naming of him, she became powerful. The naming is where we activate our power by saying it is this thing. And if you're new to Unity, we are big on naming. That is important to us. This idea that as we say it, we are actualizing it. Which brings me to the second part. So that's her walking in the woods. This idea of he who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says. This is from Revelation. This is what we are tapping into today. We're going to make this, let they who have an ear hear what Spirit says. And then we're going to move into the claiming of it. So it's not only important that we name something, but we also have to actually claim that it is us, that it is something that we have, that we are. And that is what the letter writing is going to be. So the first part, the naming, is going to be the white stone part. And then the letter writing part, from your deepest wisdom, is how you are going to claim whatever it is that you have heard. And I'm hoping you'll hear something besides Rumpelstiltskin. I'm sure you probably will. If you were here, if Rumpelstiltskin is your year of, this is my year of Rumpelstiltskin. We did power cards at the end of service last week. So perhaps this year, your white stone word is that power card. If you didn't get one and you want one, just raise your hand. Katie will come around and let you pick one. So perhaps that power card is your white stone, but it doesn't have to be. Okay? It doesn't have to be. I'm inviting everybody into the listening as to what is burbling up within you. It might be a word, it might be a phrase, it might be a quality, compassion, love, joy, beauty, harmony, creativity. My wife one year heard builder, right? There's no rules here as to what it is, but you want to just sit and I'm going to do a guided meditation so that we can listen to sort of what it is that we are at the core of our core, at the root of our root for this year. And then you'll get a chance to write that on the white stones, and then we're going to move into the letter writing process. And the letter writing will be how you're going to activate it. How are you going to claim it? What does it mean? If I am vision, what does that mean for my year? What does it mean that I am going to be stepping into if vision is mine for this year? And I found this beautiful quote, because this is, a lot of times we come into this and we think we already know. We think we already know what this year is going to be. And I really would love for you to come into this with beginner's mind and to not know. And as Maya Angelou says, lift your eyes upon this day breaking for you, give birth again to the dream. So this is an opportunity for a new dream, for a new understanding, for something completely different perhaps than you have ever heard before, to be heard and to be guided by that divine wisdom that you are as to how that will get to show up for you. So in the seat backs in front of you, and if you're in the front row, they're in the chairs under you, there's a folder. So if y'all want to pull the folder out, there is a piece of paper in there, and there is an envelope. And then could my prayer chaplains distribute the white stones now, please? Thank you. And there's baskets of white stone with markers that are coming around. So you can take a white stone and a marker and pass it around. If you are watching on the live stream, if you want to write this letter, you can absolutely write it to us and send it to us as an email and with your address, because what we do is you're going to address this envelope to yourself. Okay? Everybody do that right now. Address the envelope to yourself right now. And once these get collected, you're going to put your letter in this envelope. They get collected. The prayer chaplains pray over them for the entire year. They move to different prayer chaplains throughout the year so that they're anchored in the prayer field. And then in December of this year, they will get mailed back to you. It's pretty cool to get your letter in the mail. So you put your address on the front of your, on the front of your envelope. And then everybody should have a white stone now? Yes? Okay. So the first thing we're going to start with is the white stone. So for now, put the paper down and the envelope down and that pen down. So everyone should have a Sharpie. It's easier to write on the white stone with a Sharpie. And I just want you to hold the white stone. And we're going to step into a meditation. I want to make sure all the business is done before we move into the quieter time. Jessica, if you want to come on up here. Does everybody have a white stone? And does everybody have a pen, a regular pen for your letter, and a Sharpie for your white stone? We're good? Did you guys in audio get? Awesome. Oh, so let's take a breath. And this is the point where we're just gonna get still and we're gonna listen. And Jessica's gonna guide us into the meditation and we can all sing along as we wish to.
In the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment, there is peace. In the stillness of this moment, I am love, I am love. In the stillness of this moment, I am love, I am love. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment I am